honestly a few people short of where I want it to be, but I'm very happy with the folks that are here. And we actually ended up with a few people that weren't on the list that are going to read the all going to even out. And I'm going to replace Tim Heerding today, so you're doing much better.
Are we clapping for you or against Tim?
I don't know.
I'm still not sure, but okay.
When we were in Cleveland, Tony kept talking about was dead, and then it was the Tim Heerding
Memorial reading. Yes, I remember that. So is this the Tim Heerding Memorial reading?
I think so. I think that's what we'll call it. All right.
I'm not going to read in his memorial.
Thank you everybody for being here today. Tony, are we all good?
Yes.
Okay.
Just focus.
And you cut that last part out.
No. We're keeping that in there. All right.
Let the spontaneity flow.
There's no real order today. Dan asked me what the order is, and for that he should have to go first, but I'm not going to do that. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to call people up randomly. The first person I'm going to, I'll actually do them last. The first person I'm going to call up today is going to be my friend Jason Ryberg. You've been preparing your whole life. You're
That's
ready
right, for this moment. Oh, thank you so much.
You were
Well, I've been unprepared, but that's okay. We can do this. I will be reading from my latest collection from Back in Class Press. And I left all my copies at home, except this one. So, this is called Coffee Pot. It was an old black cast iron coffee pot. Christ, don't call it a kettle. That you could just feel the history emanating off of in lazy ambient waves. The kind of pot that belonged on a fire in a cow camp back in the day, under the early morning or late night stars on an endless ocean of grass, somewhere between Texas and Montana. And there's rumor of bandits and horse thieves, Comanche, and even an alleged bear sighting, and maybe, just maybe, despite all that foolishness, old Cookie is feeling just the slightest bit generous with the sugar this morning, if he ain't in one of his moods.
Very prepared.
Yes. The diamond bullet of absolute clarity. A long pole off a 24-ounce mug of ice-cold Modelo Especial with lime and salt to chase down a double shot of Blanco Corralejo after doing anything for 8 hours in the sun can be at times the diamond bullet of absolute clarity. Suddenly tunneling a dimensional vortex through your forehead, connecting you momentarily to the other end of time and space, and man, oh man, is that good. The Ballad of the Spider and the Wind. I'm not going to live up to that title. A lone maple leaf dancing with the wind in the cold jail cell of a spider's web. The wind attempting again to free her lover, the leaf, before his sentence can be carried out. The dark spider with the cape and mustache, who knows he cannot devour the leaf, but will poison him anyway, merely out of spite. Surely it can't be so trite and tired a story as the spider being in love with the wind and jealously hating the leaf because of it. We've heard 100 versions of this tale before, and it never ends well.
Like 10 minutes.
Okay. Jesus. That's a whole lot of reading. That's a whole lot of reading. That is more than enough reading to go around.
That's about 9 minutes for Ryberg.
Okay. Yeah, no kidding. The once and future mad philosopher king. The once and future mad philosopher king is suddenly leaping from a dream of blood and smoke on his gnarled and rocky throne at the ancient heart of the black primeval force of his mind, shouting, "My eyes!" Sending his court of woodland critters into chaos, leaving only the wind and leafless trees behind to comfort and advise him. Meanwhile, a vagabond army of the ghosts of the vanquished creeps another inch closer. Thunderstorm rolling. There's a badass thunderstorm rolling in over the state of Kansas. Down from the Rockies and over the plains, chasing a 68 Chevy pickup truck, barely held together with duct tape and baling wire across county line after county line along 70 highway. Hawks and falcons hunkered down on every tree, telephone pole, and fence post in its path. The only other vehicle on the road, nothing but a distant gleam in the rearview mirror. "Baby, please don't go," crackling through the radio as the storm begins to close the distance. And the driver pulls a crumpled up soft pack from the glove box and lights up his first one in months. Lunch money versus knuckle sandwich. Time is the dank, haunted swamp upon which we ill-advisedly built our fragile and fractious little city-state of the mind. Time is the blind master swordsman whittling you away over time to nothing with a million tiny cuts. Time is the huge troll that lives under the bridge that spans the chasm between points A and B on the flickering interline of our lives. Horses, dogs, men, saints, outlaws, and CEOs, eagles and earthworms, the moth circling the porch light, the lone wolf on the hill howling with the madness the moon causes him with its merciless and relentless stare. Nothing and nobody gets past this neighborhood bully without first giving up the lunch money, or it's a knuckle sandwich for sure, and not a second more of time for your trouble. Coming to a rest. Tell me, how in the world did an old rowboat come to rest here in a cluster of trees on a farm in south central Missouri, surrounded by a small herd of otherwise indifferent cows, beneath an 18th century landscape painting of a sky full of massive clouds that looked like they could crush and smother the whole scene if they ever reached their collective point of maximum avalanche density, and not a river or pond in sight. Still life of 49 Merc. There's an old primer black 49 Mercury in the drive, squatting like a junkyard dog with a big, toothy, stainless steel grin that looks like it's absolutely dying to go for a late Saturday afternoon spin out on the old two-lane highways just outside of town. with the windows down and some AM oldie station turned up good and loud, and everybody singing along to Papa Oom Mau Mau or Wop Babaloo Bop. Then maybe pick up a case of beer and some baby Q on the way back in, and then proceed to do away with every last bit of it all out in the backyard amongst the fireflies, satellites, and stars. Fumbling for my shoes. It all started out damn near like a blues song, with a railroad rumble of thunder and a crime scene photographer's flash bulb pop of lightning, waking me from a warm, deep dream of a woman in my bed and a fat roll in the cookie jar up on the top shelf. But it was just me, scrambling madly from the twisted sheets, wondering who, what, where, when, why, and how, fumbling for my shoes in the cold and lonely, half-dark, late for work again. Thank you so much. No, this is not about me. Front row, center court. It wasn't just the fact that the poor schlub had been in love with this woman for something like 5 or 6 years, though you'd never have got it out of him at Guantanamo even, because he just wasn't the type to toss that word around too loosely. And him always right there, it seemed, strapped into the passenger seat or front row, center court at least, for the near constant, up close and personal POV as she meandered her way willy-nilly through who knows how many progressively worse affairs with exponentially worse dudes. But also, they'd never been overly popular with women in general anyway, which, as you could imagine, only complicated and compounded circumstances gradually over what must have seemed like millennia into more of a coal-like substance, if not exactly a diamond. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason Ryberg. Let's give him another round of applause. He means it.
Little Tinkerbell.
That's right. That's right. All right. So with that, I'm going to welcome up someone who I didn't know until yesterday was going to be here with us, who's going to read. It's great. It's great to see him. Someone who's become a really, really good friend of mine in a very kind of short amount of time. And that's Mr. T. James Chapman. It's wonderful to see you, man.
It's great to see you. I'm really excited to be down here. Seeing some nice faces here. Julianne, welcome. Love seeing your pup too. So luckily I read Thursday and I don't clean out my car too often, so I still have that set. So I'm gonna read some of them. Some old stuff. Sorry, Jesse. Sorry, Dan. You've heard most of this.
Man, I've been to your place a lot back
Too much back there. If somebody would clean out my car for free, I'd appreciate it. Don't mind the energy drink cans, or you can have it. Cash them in for scrap. Anyway, this is called canned chili. My partner named this one. Nobody wants the whole hood at the farmer's market, or the single moms where I'm from who wear PJ pants and holler with lead or coal dust in their throat. They ain't quite soft, they ain't quite Mary Oliver, they ain't quite bell hooks. They're ring a chicken's neck for supper, they're Nina Simone, they ain't quite brunch vote, their spoons are plastic and washed a few times. Mamie White's been to jail for her people, have you? My grandma worked 2 jobs and stayed quiet her whole life, and now refuses to be told what to do. Well-behaved women rarely make history, right? But you don't want to see her at the Joanna Gaines aisle at Target or Myrtle House or Golden Gems, complaining loudly about how beige and boring everything is. You don't want her in your vintage boutique asking unironically for a Tammy Wynette tape. She still has a tape deck in her car. I wonder, why wonder How many more cans of chili or frozen taquitos she has in her before her heart pops. Better dead than her or the whole hood or any woman who don't misbehave within quaint liberal parameters tainting your farmer's market. Thank y'all. Apologies for the falsetto. Company profits are in the millions, but a simple handrail ain't the budget this quarter, so another simple man got cut down. Your name ain't worth remembering to boss man. He got a stack of applications signed by simple men ready to get cut down. Watch him thumb through the stack. To feed your family's a death sentence, but with all their degrees and money, they can't seem to figure out why simple men like us would rather sell heroin than 11. You get cut down in that line of work, you at least get your name in the paper. When our bosses murder us, we're just called worker. This is a cover, sing along if you know it. This is a book put out by Spartan Press. It's the true Appalachian folk hero, J.I.B. It's not the one I read Thursday. That ended up being way too long. This is a short one. It's called Use Dynamite as Required. George Washington paid slaves for their teeth. Alexander the Great wept. The Catholic Church re-educated native children. They even cut their hair. George Washington had no problem chewing steak. We carved our faces into a mountain front. Use dynamite as required. The Catholic Church cut native children's hair and buried their bodies as Christians. There are no more worlds left to conquer. The churches are burning and I don't care. Slaves were paid by George Washington for their teeth as if they could have said no. Native children were buried as Christians in God's basement. Alexander the Great wept, and I don't care that the churches are burning. I don't care that the churches are burning. The churches are burning, and I don't care. George Washington ate steak, and there's no more world left. The churches are burning. The churches are all going to burn, and I don't care. Buy the fuck out of that book. Buy the fuck out of every book over there. There's plenty of great poets here, so buy their books. This, actually, I'm really happy to see you here, Ken. Your random riffs are some of my favorite series of poems, along with Ryberg Still Lifes. I really love both of those. Anyway, this is a musical poem. It's got some music in it. It's called Guys Like Merle and Johnny Paycheck. It's old. We knew they were coming, we just weren't sure when. They knew we were there and was waiting for their chance. We slept in the same bed the night before and we threw out every beer can we could. Our biggest fear was getting caught with booze. Early next morning, SWAT busted down our door. We knew they were coming, and right then we knew when. Single file, long guns drawn, dressed just like the movies. Men in polo shirts zip-tied our wrists and sat us against the wall. They weren't too interested in our empties, Natty, Beast, etc. It's wood burned on my memory the way they dug, looking for guns we didn't have and rifling through my music. Who's the Merle Haggard fan? A cop smirked. Our tattered shirts and dyed hair didn't help us. No way in hell we listened to grandpa music. I regret to this day not belting out Mama Tried. My country collection was now state's evidence, but guys like Merle and Johnny Paycheck, they don't snitch. I wrote this Thursday on the way home from work. I found out the person who owns my factory, so the owner, my big boss, he loves Chick-fil-A because they support his Christian values. So if any of y'all have seen that episode of Wife Swap with the wild Christian lady who yells about stars and tarot cards? Anybody? Somebody. I read a ton of books and it was just blank stares. Like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? Anyway, the title is a reference to that episode. It's called "He's Not a Christian." I bow to Satan himself every day, bare kneed, laid bare. But the devil I bow to, along with 100 Hondurans on bare concrete factory floor, is a tall man no older than myself in a dry-fit polo shirt. His own devil says he loves the Lord, says he eats at Chick-fil-A, says they represent his personal religious values. He hired cheap labor in the form of elder brujas and robs them every day. Robs me too. Thinks I'm cut from his cloth. Thinks I may believe what he does. If I be a goddamn thief of wages and time with my family, and as long as we have Sundays off, the devil don't mind how long my shifts are or how backbreaking the grandma's work is, because they don't believe like he does. They ain't cut from his dry fit cloth. A wise man told me a good Christian prays, and I bet he's praying now. I bet he's happy and warm, and his fingernails ain't chipped and dirty. His back don't hurt. His long back, his long flexible back might be hard to break. I saw him with a tennis racket in his backpack, so I know he's active. But I have brute strength, and if his God won't damn him, I sure will. I'll have to be sneaky, summon all my anger and lay hands on him, make him speak in tongues, apologize to every grandma on the factory floor in their native tongue, and empty his bank account. No Christian I ever met was a rich man. No Christian I ever met owned a business, owned a factory, had an advisory board, started a hand sanitizer company in the height of the pandemic. I'll pray curses in Spanish over his grave with my co-workers. God damn the devil and damn his God for not striking him down first. Thank you all. Thanks for hating my boss along with me. This is going to be my last one. It's called Hello, Darling Revolution. Apologies to Langston Hughes and Conway Twitty. Old lady with an ankle monitor. What did you do? You probably stood up to someone who needed stood up to. Big gulps on me today. You remind me of my great-grandma. Old lady sorting flowers, front seat of your Jeep, front glass is shattered, side of the road, calm as can be. Did someone run you off the road and run off? Did your husband do the same so many years ago? Every grandma on the factory floor deserves a day off. Every grandma on the factory floor deserves a pay raise. Every grandma on the factory floor deserves to shoot our boss and water her hostas with his blood. Hello, darling revolution. Nice to see you. It's been a long time since we danced among the dead landlords, cut a rug in a vacant mansion. Remember class annihilation? Remember Mao? Remember George Jackson? Folks called him the Dragon. He killed prison guards and his brother off to judge trying to free him. An indefinite sentence for petty theft became life. Jail became his grave, but not before he taught his cellies to organize themselves. Every old lady I've known and had been raised by had a little George Jackson in her. Had a husband or two they hit with cast iron and told him it would be their last time he hit her. Darling Revolution, nice to hear your voice again. I hope you play a little louder and a little longer than them Conway records my grandma used to spin. This is the part I feel my own best. I need stage hands. I appreciate it.
Mr. James Ch- And you and I will have to get in the car to Kansas together again soon.
Oh, hell yeah, that was a great road trip.
We had a good time, man.
Oh, yeah.
But, all right. So with that, I am going to bring up Sharon Feltman. Sharon.
Hey y'all,
Hey.
I'm a little nervous following these two, but I'm gonna give it a try. I think I'm gonna start out by putting on my glasses so I can see what I'm doing.
I'm right there with you.
I have this small book, and I wrote it because my son overdosed January 2nd, 2023. Fentanyl and meth. Which to me, meth is like the junk drug. Why would somebody even do that? But anyway, he'd been an addict for years. The title of this one is Somewhere in Indiana. 1. Somewhere in Indiana, a young woman sits in the mud waiting. She caresses a 40-ounce malt liquor, a Bud Light chaser, close at hand. The 7-month fetus she carries is shrunken, barely alive. Her boyfriend knows how. He hustled at the shows, been miracled in, with slang and whatever. She doesn't recall. But she was definitely high. He was nailed. Now he's in jail for flipping on the lot. His man, nowhere to be found. She's praying out. The concert's over. It rained all night. campsites abandoned, mud ankle deep. She doesn't remember where their tent is. Was that even their tent or just an empty one? 2. The town square is lined with law offices specializing in drug charges. For a set fee, parents can get their kids out of jail, charge it over the phone. 3. She hears her name, tries to get up, stumbles, falls back on one elbow, gets to her knees, turns. A woman she thinks she knows says, "Come with me." Finally coaxed, she follows to the car. Truck stop for food, a pregnancy test. She is skinny, hair dirty. She is carrying a grandchild, I fear, is already lost. 4. Wichita, Kansas, Dr. Tiller. Fetal alcohol, severe. If the fetus were to survive, unlikely. A late term, termination, is an act of mercy. She is no longer pregnant when she returns to the parents who would not go after her, would not try to find her. Her parents who question, what about her scholarship, her future? I'm from Columbia, and driving down here, what did I see? No on 3. No on 3. I say yes on 3. I wasn't sure what we were going to do, or how long we had, but I also care a lot about what's happening in Palestine. I really care about children and babies being blown to bits. So I've been writing about that. This one is titled Rubble. A grandmother clutches the key to her father's home. She recalls laughing, chasing cousins through the groves of olive trees, lemons, and figs. Her prayer, to be in the family garden once more, to pick grapes from their vines, bite the sweet fruit as juice runs down her chin. How she loved the sun-warmed strawberries she told her grandchildren about. She hears shouts, a baby cries. Confused, she recalls swinging on the rope her brother tied to a branch. Is that him now, returned from prison, where he died of torture at 15? She takes a breath. Toxic dust fills her lungs. Her eyes are clouded. She cannot move her legs. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. She drifts, recalls how strangers now sit at her mother's table. The beauty of their teakwood table. Her mother's pride in serving tea. Her kanafe, legendary across the neighborhood. A footprint on her heart. She has no tears left to weep. The keys she shared her life will never again taste its lock. The baby's cries are no more. This 25-long pile of rubble will be their unmarked grave. More about what is happening, the genocide that's so horrible that we are paying for. Not even the dead. A boy, face smudged with grime, carries a scrawny kitten. His sister and their cousins struggle to keep up. Makeshift crutches pinch their arms as they walk on bit of happiness was discovered under the rubble. They hand the forlorn-looking feline to a smiling mother. What a blessing, she cries aloud. Another mouth to feed, she silently considers.
Yes.
The constant buzz of drones invades sleep. Bombs drop without reason. There is no place to hide. She makes tea and a bit of lemon peel found yesterday. Suffice as the evening meal. Across the hill, bulldozers to file graves, toss shrouded bodies into piles, demolish stone markers, smooth the ground, erect walls for a military encampment. Here, in this hell, not even the dead will find peace. Thank you so much. I'm working on a new collection about women on the margins. And that would have been me. And maybe some of you, or someone you know. This one's called Cooking Rice. A long journey in a rumbling truck to a ship, contained in container darkness, weak from thirst. Seasickness survived. She doubts now the promise made to her parents as they pressed bills into a stranger's hand. In a filthy room with others who survived, realizing the ropes around her wrists, she turns to face a girl next to her. A pasty fat man with a camera says, act happy, perform, look hopeful. You could get lucky and move to Florida. This future pushes in, points on the horizon blur and recede. She closes her eyes and pretends, knowing there will be no other hereafter, no family, no love, only long and lonely longing. When the deed is done and the needle applied, she sinks into forgetfulness. The screams of her bedmate fade. She is back in the Philippines with the family cooking rice. A couple more from that new collection. This one is entitled Pays Better Than Screwing Bowling Trophies Together. And if you've ever worked in a bowling trophy factory, you know, that's how they work. But in a third-rate bar, 10 p.m. to closing, we dance in a bay window on a tiny stage, hanging upside down on a pole wearing little. We have our fans, old men who give us nickel bags for tips. Everyone knows the drinks they buy us are watered down, but the weed we roll in toilet paper, smoke in the bathroom. We do what we can, work with what we've got, rent to pay, a broke down ride, an abusive ex who won't go quietly. We are teachers, we are women, we are mothers with kids to feed. And I think I'll end on a positive note, something from my friend. When you hear, you will hear. For the music is in the wind and the sand, the sage and the cedar. The medicine is in you. When you are ready to sing, you will sing. For the song is the air that we breathe and the earth mother's love and the beat of your blood. The medicine is in you. When you are ready to beat the drum, the rhythm will come as the sound of your steps on the path of your life, as a roaring in your ear. The medicine is in you. When you are ready to dance, you will remember the dance as the dance you've been walking for lifetimes uncounted, and dreams manifested, and lessons began those dreams. The medicine is in you. When you are ready to dance, you will remember the dance as the dance you've been walking for lifetimes uncounted, and dreams manifested, and lessons begat of those dreams. The medicine is in you. The medicine is in you. The medicine is in you. Hope.
Sharon. Someone I have not heard in a very long time, and it's good to see him come in. That's Michael Strosahl.
Yeah.
And did you have a hard time finding this?
I went to the wrong place. Yeah. I went to the Osage Arts community. That's
Oh.
where
Yeah,
I've
technically,
been-
but this is
I've
one.
been there before, but I
Okay.
haven't been here before.
Okay.
I like your shirt.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to start with some new shit. Exactly.
Mike, where are you now?
I'm in DeKalb, Illinois. But I actually started this morning in Holland, Michigan. With my truck. I had to drive down, drop off a trailer, and then head this way. So yeah, took a minute.
Yeah, I could not quite remember exactly where you were.
Oh, that's all right. I move around some. So this is brand new. I'm going to try it on you guys and see if we got this working, okay? I call this Boom Rumble Rumble. Strike me dead if I have not followed your thunder, cursing your wisdom as I try to raise mine half as well. Strike me dead if I don't recognize your boom in my own words, sometimes harsh, sometimes a soft rumble rolling through their heads as you roll through mine, long past your days. Another flash bound to strike me deaf to the world, longing for the next, just to hear your voice again. I got to spend the entire week in Michigan, going back and forth from the Upper Peninsula, and this is actually from Battle Creek. I spent a little bit of time around there, so this is called Battle Creek. In the cool of October surprise, there is already frost on the fields of flakes, already choco growing on the puffs, granola bending wind, waiting for one more milky shower before harvest, shaking a sugar sludge to run off, rest in the bottom of a stream. This one here I call Of the Fruit, Good and Bad. Perhaps it is that piece of fruit lodged sideways in our throat, that exploration of taking control of what we determine as good and bad, the sin of knowledge that makes us come back to the surface for air, the struggle to survive on our own without the guidance of a designer or provided blueprint, inserted tab A into slot B while others fold, preferring origami or turning upsides down. Perhaps it is that deception and her willing accomplice, learning the forbidden, teaching lessons to the next generation of unhearing ears, the know-it-alls and I will figure it out fruitful and filling the earth. Perhaps we sapient have peaked and now descend quaquaversal from our apex, equally missing the mark, copies from copies, machines built by fleshy machines, bound to event fail, growing silent in our decay, worms getting fat on what we thought we knew. But I still feel the pangs, still feel the yearn, a lust for the apple, and for my eyes to be opened wider. We've all gone through breakups. This is kind of one of those kind of poems. It's called Et tu. If I am to die at your hand, let it be from the front. Let me see the dagger coming. Let me watch the murder in your eyes. Take the blade, bury it deep, angled upward from the belly, ripping through my hair. With all that you can muster, twist the blade, slicing the wound wide, all the while hold your gaze. Finally, pull back, let the floodgate open, a bubbling froth pouring me out. As my eyes drain, let me read, let me know the pain I caused you, the wounds I must have opened, so callously inflicted as we bumble together through this life. And I will understand. I will fall in the pool we made together and become still. The last sounds I hear will be your footsteps walking away, echoing in the distance until all is silenced, and it will be done. Please, if I am to die at your hand, come at me from out in the open. None of this sneak around backstabbing shit you are killing me with now. This next one, I actually saw something. There's a museum around here that is a wax museum, and they have a lot of stuff about Jesse James there. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
And one of the stories that they tell in a little pamphlet that I found was that Jesse James didn't die when they think he did. And that he actually moved somewhere else and lived there for a bit and then moved somewhere else. And this kind of tells a little bit of that story, okay? This is called Granbury. As a centurion, Jesse came back, reclaimed his stories, told many more we found hard to believe. He had faked his death, laid low and even attended the funeral for a bastard whose own wife helped cover the secret, accepting payment and running off herself for a new life in California. The lawless became the law, invented into martial until also extinguished along the Arkansas. Then there were the wars, guns borne by ghosts, bullets blowing them away. You can take the fight, but the fighter goes on, telling his stories, living his lives in the Texas heaven he found in Granbury. Bones finally stilled near the river Brazos. But to those who believe, those who paid him his past due Confederate pension, counted his 103 years as Jesse's, a second life, a third one stolen by the outlaw always working on a plan, and the man who was no one at 99 lived his last few years, spent the decade since held down dead by the heft of a stone, a someone we will still tell stories about. My mom is alive. I want you to know that before I read this one. This was actually inspired by putting down my cat a few years back. And but it also brought some things in that my mom talked to me about a long time ago. So this is called Sleep Mama Sleep. And I do play loose with facts here, so there's don't carve me off with handcuffs later. She made me promise, said if I really loved her, I would spare her the lonely shadows that swallow the mind, sweeping the halls clean long after the current tenant has had a chance to pack up and move on. It was my own weakness in honoring her wishes that let her lose the grandchildren, her daughter's face, even the last good years of her husband. She still found me familiar enough, at least, to help her bathe, pick out her dresses, brush her hair. I wonder, as she now lies so peaceful, if her last thoughts were of polyester fluff and betrayal, or were they exhaled with a sigh of relief unknown to the hands that fought me for one more breath. I did bring, last time I saw you guys, I handed out a bunch of booklets.
One of these folks you haven't seen.
Yes, I did not bring the old ones with me because I didn't have time to do them, but I do have the ones that I handed out in April. It's called Corporate Gigs. It's in the same series. Yeah, I'll have them over here later on. But there is a folded poem inside. I'm going to read that one. And it's kind of a little bit about the corporate screwing that many of us have received throughout the years. And there is, the term pickle liquor is a actual thing. Iron, when they are cold rolled steel, they do run it through an acid bath, and we call it pickle liquor. She drank the Kool-Aid, did her 32 years on the pickle line, miles of hot rolling steel dipped into the liquor to eat away at any scale before being processed cold. They closed that plant, tore it down to pursue a better way, cheaper, faster, and less toxic to the environment. No one ever addressed her years of acid burns, the toll it took on the other employees who rolled out the day they shut down a little pickle themselves. She got a watch, spends her days watching the grandchildren, great-grandchildren, nights drinking something hard, trying to clean up any scale that remains inside from the years gone by. And that demon pickle liquor, long ago neutralized, dumped in landfills with lime, ain't hurting anyone no more, other than making another blister on this earth, marking yet another garbage heap, hidden below a little topsoil. She's all alone now, with her memories of places no longer there, lifelong friends passing by, her drink begging for yet another refill, and her vinegar soul rolling through the days, mostly sour.
Yeah, that's the good thing about doing this. Most of these folks aren't like gumbo bottoms people, anything like that. So you get to meet some new people, hear some new people. I think it's awesome. Personally, I get sick of seeing everybody's faces though.
Thanks, John. Thanks.
Of course.
Love you too.
But all right. So with that, I am going to welcome up St. Louis's own Dan Wright.
Thank you, John. First couple poems I'll be reading are from a new split that I just put out called A Ludicrous Split 3 with Kevin Ridgway and what?
Nobody's going to select the Dan Wright player on the front.
No, they shouldn't.
No.
I mean, Gabe Ricard and Kevin Witch were much better selections. The three of us decided to write poems about 80s and 90s pop culture because we are the elder millennials we are. And first three poems I have are from this collection. And my apologies to Jesse, Elise, and Tyler for having to sit through this again. But this first poem is entitled Root Root for the Home Team. A fact about me that I keep hidden to the average St. Louisan is the fact that I was born in Chicago.
Ooh.
This is a fact that ultimately shouldn't matter, but if I say this to the wrong person after they had one Bud Light too many, they'll look at me as though I were born in a house of ill repute and act like I had any say in the matter of the geography of where I was born. as though I could visit my mother as an astral projection and suggest to her that when her water breaks, she should board a Greyhound and head to a city 5 hours away that at that point she'd never been to, just because it'd save me a bunch of headaches in the long run. If someone sees me wearing anything related to the Cubs, they'll begin spewing facts, making me feel like a smoker being told all the reasons why I shouldn't smoke, as if I haven't heard all this already. Even going so far as to knock Harry Carey, saying that the reason he was sent to Chicago was because he couldn't hack it in St. Louis. Which at times will get me spiteful, and I'll retort that the real reason Harry Carey got sent up to Chicago was because he got caught messing around with the wife of Augie Bush III, and rumor has it that whenever he finished, he'd shout, "It could be, it might be, it is, a home run, holy cow, Cubs win, Cubs win!" They'll treat the knowledge of my family being from Chicago as a mental illness, a habit I need to kick. Something for which there must be a cure available from modern science, and that I've already taken the first steps to recovery by living in St. Louis. They'll ask why I don't like the Cardinals, even though I never said that. They'll look at me as though I were an alien, when I tell them the simple truth of this whole sordid matter. That I really don't care about sports as much as I would like to, and when I ask them why, I tell them to look in a fucking mirror. Thank you. One of the seasonal jobs I had in my youth was working Toys R Us, and you ain't seen shit till you've seen Black Friday as a employee at Toys R Us.
Been there.
And it's called Fist Fight in a Toys R Us parking lot. Some asshole stole the last Beanie Baby that someone else was planning to use as a retirement fund. A parent who doesn't know how to express their love besides buying things for the kids breaks down in tears because the last Cabbage Patch doll was sold a half hour before they got there. Mothers fight dirty to get their little girls a sky dancer, only to return them when they see that the wings can take a kid's eye out. A microchip shortage means there won't be as many video games this year. Someone steals a Tickle Me Elmo, sold fair and square to someone from someone on their way out to the car, and now shit's on.
Yeah.
And other shoppers gather. Some are watching to see if that Tickle Me Elmo will go flying, and if they can catch it to make a break. But when the Tickle Me Elmo is used as a weapon and gets blood on it, it's of no use to anyone. And that's not even considering the fact that actions like that would just be unbecoming on Sesame Street. And as their children see this on the news before switching over to find something better to watch, they think to themselves that if this were them fighting, the grown-ups would break it up and tell them to behave themselves. This one is called The Last Long-Term Resident of the Hotel Chelsea. The last long-term resident of the Hotel Chelsea signed their lease in 2007 and walked up the aged Victorian stairs, watching over the years as history was cut down and good taste ignored. Shedding a tear as the room where Leonard Cohen met up with Janis Joplin was reopened to guests for top dollar, whilst trying to keep the room where Dylan Thomas once lived and died remained untouched. Making the walk down to the White Horse to see the bathroom that doesn't tell you anymore that Jack Kerouac got kicked out of this place. Bored to tears as CBGB couldn't be saved before becoming a boutique. Elbows with Stonewall while history becomes commodified. One and cheap meal from Gray's Papaya in the Village only to see it's become a Starbucks. Trying to talk sense to the new owners of the Chelsea as they wonder if they should reopen the room that once belonged to Sid and Nancy, before eventually getting a notice that the long-term residents are getting kicked out because there's more money to be made from history than letting artists thrive. So this next one is from another split that I did with Gabriel Card, who's one of the feature poets in the Ludicrous Split 3, called Tonight's Main Event. The two of us decided to write poems about that all-American art form, professional wrestling. And this is one that is based on a true story, and it's called A Night with Mad Dog. Superhuman strength and superhuman stupidity lay at the feet of a dozen bottles. We all go off the rails sometimes and feel like shit the day after with a night's worth of regrets. But until you drink a pint of whiskey before entertaining a crowd for 20 minutes, down 2 Dexedrine with an entire cooler of beer in 30 minutes time, empty 3 bottles of red wine to calm your nerves before meeting your girlfriend's parents for the first time, crack the seal of another full bottle of whiskey after embarrassing yourself in front of your girlfriend and her parents, and then smoked a joint to even out because you drank too much, and then took a Quaalude to calm down because the joint didn't hit like you thought it would before getting on a plane to go home, and until you've opened the door of said plane 10,000 feet in the air, throwing your friends' gym bags out and yelling to your friends as you hang out of the door by the chains of the plane, telling to them, I swear it's so peaceful up here, I feel like I'm flying. And until you have fought 6 of your best friends, all of whom are in much better shape than you'll ever be, after the plane has had to make an emergency landing, and at least 7 cops, and a few men from the local psych ward ready to put you in a straitjacket, screaming at everyone as the cops ask your friends if they want to press charges, I swear I'll take you all to hell with me. And your friends instead deciding to go to the nearest hardware store, buy all the duct tape they had, and tape your ass to the seat before the plane takes off again, leaving you tied up after the plane lands for the pilots to deal with you. Until you've had a night like that, don't beat yourself up too bad. So the remaining poems I have, there's just a couple of them, are going to be my next upcoming full-length, The Unheard Music, that will be out soon from Spartan or one of its subsidiaries. And this next piece I label as a millennial middle-aged poem, and it's called Jinko Jeans and a Lace Choker.
Nice.
As Green Day played in the supermarket, I saw a woman about my age with Jennifer Aniston highlights in her hair, wearing Jinko jeans and a lace choker. The sight made me think of every girl who dressed like that, who I was too scared to talk to once upon a time. I stopped for a sec to make sure that I hadn't accidentally time traveled back to 1998, especially with the amount of Tupac and Nirvana shirts I saw on the other shoppers. Though the prices of the supermarket were kind enough to reassure me that I was definitely in the present. The guy she was with looked like a Dollar Tree Fred Durst, wearing jorts to show every band he had tattooed on his legs. If this were once upon a time, we would have turned our noses up at each other. Him hanging on to the fading glory of nu metal, and me, ever the indie rock hipster, fooling myself into thinking I was better than him because I was rocking a Franz Ferdinand t-shirt, and probably dating someone who took their fashion cues from their friend who worked at Hot Topic. Instead, as I passed by this couple, I gave a polite smile and they did the same. All the while, My Name Is by Eminem came on, and while Slim Shady rapped about not knowing which Spice Girl he wanted to impregnate, I laughed, remembering every parent who called for Eminem to be banned, most of whom probably had a daughter who wore Jinko jeans and a lace choker that I was too scared to talk to once upon a time. This one is called Money Money. I never knew how rich I had to be broke. No one prepared me for $500 a week being barely enough to survive. Meanwhile, I see those with more money than God making even more money on the latest grift. It must be nice to blow hundreds of millions of dollars on a dare that became a mistake to prove a point only you care about. Meanwhile, $200 disappears before you know it. $1,500 disappears before you know it. Gold standards free for so long cost a minor fee because enough ain't enough. The cool shows are always on when a bill is due, or the rent. And you wish you could see your friends like you used to, but you went out once 3 months ago and are still recovering financially. I never wanted to care this much about money, and once upon a time I never had to. But because I try to make a living wage, I'm just another means to an end. If there's money to be had, someone else always wants it, because for them, it's a race to the top, for those already residing in Olympus. And they're convinced that their skyscraper will never fall over. I guess they were too good as kids to play with Legos. Three more, two that are very short. This is one of them, and it's called Accountability Ruined Their Good Time. If you have to blame the evolution of society and the bare minimum of accountability for your inability to remain a relevant artist, then maybe, just maybe, with. Thank you. heard Henry Kissinger bit the big one. At the ripe old age of not soon enough. If there was a hell, I hope he is right beside Nixon getting everything he deserved for Cambodia, East Timor, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. For the assassinations he was tied to. For so many laps as this 100-year-old war criminal finally parted ways with this world. But in the wee hours of the next day, Shane MacGowan had passed. An Irish poet, if ever there was one, who showed us why you must always get up on stage, to let the world know what you mean, and that no matter how bad you think your teeth are, they're never half as bad as his. Outliving addiction and succumbing to a virus, those who knew of him mourned. I raise a glass of Guinness as many a pair of brown eyes cry for Shane MacGowan.
Hell yeah.
And this is my last. It's entitled Untitled Poem That Needs a Cigarette. Everybody knows that if you're going to eat the rich, to never eat them well done. Weeping for yesterday's outsider, as every time I see someone with fake plastic glasses claim to be a nerd, I swear I can hear Ben Folds cry. Nowhere to go that wasn't pre-made for a nuclear family that no one can afford, who know that there ain't no hate like New Testament love. Public transit gives you a contact high as you pull yourself up by the metaphorical bootstraps that the rich always talk about but never had to use. Trying to think positive instead of realistic. Eating costs, because who needs to eat food? It's a gamble to get a face, even worse, to get a name. If certain mammals are allowed to hibernate, then it's only fair the rest of us should. Maybe things would be better if we all just slept in. Thank you.
Okay. Tony, should I give you a minute there?
Yeah.
Okay, because you told me like 45 minutes and then